Hey there everyone, today I'm going to discuss Chapter 11, Section 3, areas of circles and areas of sectors, meaning the area of just a section of the circle. Okay, so let's get started. You're pretty familiar with an area of a circle by now. It's pi r squared, and thing to mention about the area is, remember, area is the space that it occupies, all the space inside the circle, this blue area here. We previously did circumference, so that's the length around it. So it's going to seem a little familiar to what we did before in the circumference unit, but you know it's different because it's area now. So find the area of the circular putting green. If it's 20 feet across, that means the diameter is 20 feet. That means the radius is 10. Okay, and that means that my area is just pi r squared, so pi 10 squared. And that's going to be about 314.519, what's my unit? Feet squared. So when you're in circumference, it would just be feet. Let me try and fix this 9 because it's one dimension, but area is 2 dimensions. You're multiplying 2 directions together. It makes more sense to think about it when it's like a rectangle, length times width. That's multiplying, going left and right and up and down. Anyway, let's just move on. So, an outdoor accessories company manufactures circular covers for outdoor umbrellas. If the cover is 8 inches longer than the umbrella on each side, find the area of the cover in square inches. Okay, so this is 72 inches all the way across. I'm looking for the cover, which is on the outside. So if this is 72 inches all the way across, then the radius of this is 36 inches. And that means the radius of the cover is 36 plus 8, which is 44 inches. So now I'm just doing pi 44 squared. Area equals pi 44 squared. So type that into your calculator, and you're going to get that the area is approximately 6,082 feet, 82.12, oh wait, it's not feet, it's inches squared. Inches squared. Okay? And that's all there is to that one. Now, number 3, I'm working backwards. Find the radius of a circle with an area of 95 centimeters. So, area is pi r squared. So, area is 95 equals pi r squared. So, basically, I have pi times r squared equals 95. So, if I were to go backwards, just divide both sides by pi. And 95 divided by pi is approximately 30.24. But I don't like to round until the very end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scratch that. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say r squared equals 95 over pi. And so if I keep it as a fraction, it's not rounded. And so to undo any squares, to square root it. So if I just type into my calculator the square root of 95 over pi, then I get a more precise answer rather than square rooting 30.24. And so I get r is approximately 5.499 is what my calculator says. So I'm just going to round that to 5.5. And then my unit was centimeters. So just write centimeters next to it. And that's how I would go backwards. I would divide by pi and square root it. If I wanted to know my diameter, I'd just double it. I'd say 5.5 times 2, that's 11. And that's all there is to that one, working backwards. So now I'm going to do area of a sector. So before we did length of a sector or arc length, and you did the degree over 360 times the circumference. Now you're doing the degree over 360 times the area, because it's the area of the sector, everything in the red. So it starts off with the first example I have. A circular pizza has a diameter of 12 inches and is cut into 8 congruent slices. What's the area of one slice? to the nearest hundredth. So I'm going to round it to 2 decimal places. So start off with what you know. You know that the radius is 6 because it said diameter is 12. And then the angle, well, I cut the pizza into 8 slices. So I'm going to write 360 over 8. If I cut a 360 degree up circle 8 times, as even as possible, I will get each angle, or each pizza slice will have an angle of 45 degrees. Okay, so now that you know your angle for your sector and your radius, you can just plug it into the formula. Go 45 over 360 times pi r squared. So r squared is 6 squared. So you're just going to multiply all that across. So I get my area as approximately 14.14 inches squared. That would be the area of that pizza slice. Is that enough to fill you up? I don't know. That's up to you, I guess. Now, similar question. A pie has a diameter of 9 inches and cut into 10 congruent slices. So diameter is 9 inches. That means radius is 4.5. And if it's cut into 10 congruent slices, I'm going to go 360 divided by 10, which means those are 36 degree slices. So I'm gonna say that my area is 36 over 360 times pi times 4.5 squared. Okay, you can type that all in and you'll get approximately 6.36. So A is 6.36 inches squared. And that's a 6. There we go. And this is an A. Okay. Let's move on to example 6. The area of a sector of a circle with a radius of 8 inches is 68 inches squared. What's measure the central angle? Okay, cool. So we're going to have to go backwards. We have 68 equals some degree, you don't know what it is, over 360 times pi r squared. And your r was 8, so I'm going to go times pi 8 squared. Okay, so this is a straight up multiplication problem. Something over 360 times pi times 8 squared. So we can do this in 2 steps. I can divide out pi times 8 squared to both sides. Alright, so I'm going to type in 68 divided by, and you might want to hit that control divide button on your calculator to do the pi times 8 squared on the bottom. And you can leave it as this fraction if you want, or you can, because you get a long decimal, so I'm just going to write out the decimal in its entirety. It might be easier to see that way. But after this, I'll show you an alternate way. So I have this 0.338204 times x over 360. Opposite of dividing by 360 is timesing by 360. So let me move this over. So I have 360 times all of this. And I'm going to get my approximate degree is x is about 121.754 degrees. Okay? I could have done this all in one step if you think about it. If you see how we did 360 times this, whatever this quotient was, you could go back and you could go 68 divided by pi 8 squared times 360. So you could have done 360 times all of this if you wanted to type all that in and do it all in one step. Or just think about it in 2 steps. Divide it out, then set it equal to this fraction, and then do the multiply 360 to both sides. It doesn't really matter. Just do it the way that makes the most sense to you. I'm going to go ahead and erase this, though, and just move on. Okay, so I have the last example. Given the shaded area of circle H, find the radius and diameter. Okay, so the shaded area is 309 degrees. How do I know that? It's got to add with 360, and 51 is the unshaded area. So I have 31.47 is going to equal, well, I don't know my radius. That's what I'm looking for. So it's going to equal 309 over 360 times pi, and you don't know what r squared is, so pi r squared. So let's divide out what we do know. I do know 309 over 360 times pi makes some number. So 309 over 360 times pi. Cancel that out, that leaves me with r squared. So you could type this into your calculator now. Don't round it though. So you're going to get r squared equals 11.6705. So if r squared equals that, then the square root of that is my answer for the radius. So I'm gonna just, you can do the square root of, and if you type in a and s, that's the answer. That way you're not rounding it in the calculator. And so my final answer can be rounded. So I can write it as squiggly lines right there. 3.416. So I'll round that to 3.42. And this was, I guess, meters was my unit. Alright, so that's it for 11.3. I hope this helped. Just remember area is pi r squared, and area of a sector, do the degree over 360 times pi r squared. And that's all you really need to know. Alright, take care everybody. Oh, and I almost forgot to add that the diameter on this is just double that radius. So diameter is equal to 6.84. Alright, bye.